Welcome back to another episode of the Ace for Waves podcast with me, Annabelle. We've done quite a few episodes up to this point now already. We've covered sports, we've covered Big 12 basketball, we've covered the Iowa State Cyclones, we've done a little bit of golf, we've done the Super Bowl. I think I did one about the NBA. So we're getting a lot more sports included, which I like. I like talking about sports. I like talking about it with you guys. I've been searching up different content and different, areas of discussion to talk about because I believe that there is so much more out there in the sports world that either we're not really aware of or we don't talk about much. I've done some Saturday specials already. That's mostly with Iowa State stuff, and then occasionally some Super Bowl previews. I've done one coffee talk, I believe. I've done a Monday reel, which is for you new listeners. Monday reels are things that I like to do after either a big tournament in sports. So we did one right after Super Bowl 58, which is like the highest level for teams to play in. I'll do one after the Masters for golf in April. We'll do Monday reels there. Probably do a Monday reel after the March Madness tournament in basketball, which is coming up really soon. Also, and then I'll also start doing a little bit more different segments just to make it interesting and maybe kind of defer away from the main episodes, but still get to what I want to talk about that I can't really mesh into about an hour's worth of content. And I like to have a schedule too to kind of keep me on pace so I'm not jumping back and forth. So if I see something, I can stick to it and I know that what I'm kind of doing. And then I can also base content around, what's happening in the sports world. So for example, the Big 12 tournament for basketball is next week. I'll most likely do a segment about that. There's other basketball conference tournaments starting up too. I believe Saturday is probably the last day for the regular season for most conferences in college basketball. And then there's already been some conference tournaments that have started up. I haven't been really keeping up to date with that quite yet, but I need to look at that. There'll be more conference tournaments next week. And then the week after next week, March Madness has finally arrived. I have no idea what the bracketology looks like up to this point. You can probably most likely find that on ESPN with Joe Lunardi. I know he likes to do bracketology and put out, mock brackets and stuff like that. But on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, that is Selection Sunday. So we will see who all teams who are making it in, what seeds they are, where they're playing, etc. So until the first week of April, it's going to be stacked with basketball, and I'm really excited for that. And I'm sure all of you college basketball fans are really excited for that too. But today's episode is a segment, and we're going to do another coffee talk. I mentioned this in the first one. Coffee talks are a way for me to kind of express myself and for you to get to know me better, just aside from the person you see on the screen. And I have some icebreaker questions I wrote down that I found on the internet. I'm going to answer them, kind of give you more glimpse into who I am as a person, what I like/dislike, and I hope you can find some inner stuff that is interesting about me. I wouldn't call myself a very interesting person, but you never know. And even though I named this segment Coffee Talk, at the time of recording this, it is 8:07 p.m. So I don't have coffee. Instead, we have wonderful apple juice that I'm going to be drinking throughout in place of coffee, because you probably shouldn't be drinking caffeine at 8 p.m. when it's close to bedtime for some people. And apologies if my voice sounds gone too. Been dealing with that as well. But here we go. First question of my icebreaker questions. It says, show your office space. I am in a dorm right now. I go to school up at the University of Northern Iowa. I am a student, so this room is not big as expected for a dorm room, but my office space, if you could call it that, is just basically a desk. I don't know if I can show it to you guys on the screen. There, that is literally my desk right there. I try to keep it semi-organized. I'm not a very organized person, but you need to stay organized if you want to know where your stuff is, and it's just a good quality to have that I'm trying to get better at. I know my desk is just basically books, office supplies, pictures and stuff. I'm a very crafty person too, so there's a bunch of crafty stuff up there. I guess I can show you this. This is you can't really see it because it's in very light wording, but it says Ace for Waste. This is my official binder for content and stuff that I like to put in here. So, yeah, I need to get into this thing. I forgot to like 3 ring it on some of these, but this is like episode 6, for example, that I still need to record. And by the time that this podcast segment is out, it probably will be recorded. So you can go listen to that very soon. But I like to have my layout stuff in here. I like to try to keep it organized so I can stay on top of things. But for writing layouts especially, I like to start off with an introduction. You can't see it if you're listening on Spotify. I don't know if you can kind of really see the words if you're watching on YouTube, but I like to write out all of my content beforehand. I'm not really good with talking on the fly. I know that's kind of what I'm doing right now, but I have something in mind already that I want to talk about. But if you ask me like a sports question and I don't have time to prepare, I get a bit flustered and I don't really know how to word it properly. So I like to kind of write layouts and what I want to talk about and then go from there. So it kind of makes the conversation flow a little bit more smoother. I always start out with an introduction, kind of introducing the podcast and what we're about to talk about. I have some background information. And then with this one specifically, it says point of emphasis. I do that with some of the main episodes. Other episodes, I'll just probably get into context is another wording for it. And then I have main points. So I start off with like a main point number 1. We go through the main point, and then if I have other stuff that kind of falls into the main point, then they're just really subpoints. So on the back, we have subpoint 1, subpoint 2, and then we go back into main point 2. And I always end it with a conclusion. It's kind of like a story if you think about it. You have an introduction, you have chapters, so to speak, and then you finish with the conclusion. I like to think of it as a story. I know not all stories follow that same guideline, but you get the point. So that's that. I have other little notes in here. I have all the episode stuff, podcast schedule, podcast notes. So it all stays in here. And that's how I keep all my stuff organized and I know where everything's at all times, which is what I kind of need if you're a person like me who struggles with organizational skills at times. Number 2, what is your most used emoji? I like to use heart emojis. I just find it's really easy to find, and it's one of the first things that comes up in my most used emojis. I respond with those for text messages and stuff. If someone texts me, reply with a simple heart. Feel like that's the most affectionate way to go about it. Other times, smiley faces or thumbs up. I'll actually say thumbs up is probably my most used emoji because instead of saying okay or good job, just reply with a thumbs up and you let people know that you got the message and you got the point. If you were famous, what would you be famous for? I am going to school right now for journalism. I want to be like a journalist, maybe sports journalist, or doing something with public relations, which is my minor. If I were to be famous with something, because I love writing, maybe an author. Writing has been a trait of mine that people have said is which is my strongest trait I have as a person. aside from other, personality traits, etc., all of that. But I found that I loved writing at a very young age, and it continued into my teenage and my adult years. I'm someone who struggles with talking to people, so I have a hard time kind of expressing how I'm feeling and my emotions. But if I write it down on paper, if I can make it kind of into a story, that's how I like to express myself without trying to use as much words as I can. So I would say maybe an author or producer, I guess. I would love to be directing stuff, producing stuff of my own, and writing, maybe, playwriting or script writing too. I could see myself being famous for that, directing as well. But who knows? There's still a lot of years to figure that out. But for right now, I would say most likely author. You have to sing karaoke. What song do you sing? Let's put this out there. I am not a good singer. I don't think I'm a good singer. I like to listen to music in my spare time. I listen to a whole variety of genres of music, but one of the songs that I could play over and over again and not get bored of, and a song that I've memorized by now, is Locked Out of Heaven by Bruno Mars. It's one of my top 5 songs of all time, up with a few other songs. But I admire Bruno Mars as an artist. I think his musicality is so unique and so different from a lot of other R&B and pop artists. Kendrick Lamar, one of the better hip hop artists slash rappers of our generation, is a musical influence for me too. And I really admire Kendrick's ability to storytell through his songs. He's not necessarily singing, he's rapping, and you have to be able to keep up with rap music in order to understand the words. But Kendrick, I don't know what to say other than he is a fantastic storyteller, and the way he writes and the way he lets people into his brain and his musical knowledge is just genius level. Best piece of advice you've been given. Question number 5. The best piece of advice I've been given is, I'll say the best piece of advice from my parents is go out and try new things. That's easier said than done, but you'll never know if you never try. So if you never put yourself out there, you never know what it could have been, essentially. And I'm still working with that too, even as a college student. I'm still working to, put myself out there and explore the opportunities and explore, the possibilities, instead of saying no right away and letting someone else take it. I'm learning kind of how to express myself better and present myself in a way that doesn't come off as completely introverted. I am a very, very, very introverted person. I like to have my own space. I like to kind of keep to myself, and I like to be by myself so I can focus and really put my best thought and effort into something. But I think I'm also kind of a shy person at first too, and it takes quite a long time to break through that shell and that barrier. So the best piece of advice from my parents is go out, try new things, and if you're uncomfortable, that means that something good is coming your way. When we're uncomfortable, that means that we're kind of, unsure and stuff, but it could lead to the greatest opportunity of your life potentially. So, to all my other fellow introverts and shy people, go out there, try something new, explore the possibilities, and something good could be headed your way. But the best piece of advice I've been given from teachers is, and my parents too, I guess, I've heard it from both of them, but ask for help. That's easier said than done as well. I'll admit that I did not ask for help a lot of times when I should have, and it did come with consequences. But your teachers are there to help you. They want to help you. They want to see you succeed in their classes. And when students sometimes, either fail the classes because they didn't understand the content and they didn't go for help right away, it makes your teachers feel bad because they feel like they let you down. So, and I know some people get uncomfortable going up to teachers one-on-one and asking for help, but it's nothing to be ashamed of. We Most people just deal with it in a different way. It took me a long time to feel comfortable going up to teachers or professors and asking them for help or asking for clarification if I didn't understand something. But when you ask for help, that's a sign to your teachers and to yourself that you are willing to admit that, hey, maybe I just need a little extra help with this one homework assignment, or hey, I'm kind of struggling in with this homework or with in this class in general. Would you be willing to work with me to figure something out? That can make a teacher's day if you ask for help kindly, and I guarantee that 99% of the time they are going to say yes, and they are going to work with you to find a comfortable balance between one another. I'm going to stop to take a drink here quickly. So that's my best piece of advice that I've received. And to you guys, put yourself out there and ask for help when you need it. That doesn't have to be school related too. Ask for help from your parents once in a while or an adult figure in your life. Ask for help from friends. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. Let's see, what is your absolute dream job? My absolute dream job right now, sports, just to be a sports journalist. I'm studying sports journalism at the moment, studying a little bit of public relations too. I would love to be writing content for sports. I think my top sports right now would be in like the golf and football realm area sort of thing. I could also see myself covering potentially basketball as well, but sports journalist for sure. What would you title your autobiography? Ooh, Life Lessons with Annabelle, I think would be the name of my autobiography. I don't know if that's the title of a book already. I might have to come up with a more creative name than that, but I have received many life lessons. I've learned a lot of lessons in the 21 years on Earth, but I feel like I could write it to not just for myself, but I could write for other people as well. Because we all deal with different issues and different topics in society and just the whole grand scheme of things. Your favorite television network? I watch I don't watch a lot of TV shows and stuff as much as I probably should. I should get more involved in pop culture, but I ESPN, I think I like to watch sports games on there. I guess Fox Sports too, and just Fox, CBS, basic news channels would probably be my favorite TV network. I know that makes me sound like an old person, but it's kind of the truth, unfortunately. What did you, oh, what would your superpower be? If I would love to help people, if that's a superpower. I love helping people in general. It makes me feel good when I can make someone's day, or if I can help turn around someone's day. That makes me, that's when I feel at the happiest, when I'm doing a good deed for another person and paying it forward. But aside from just that superpower, I always say that I would love to be a kangaroo. If I could turn into any animal, if that was a superpower, I would love to be a kangaroo just so I could have good boxing and fighting skills if I ever needed to defend myself from a predator or something in harm's way. I don't know how much use a kangaroo would be in that scenario though, so it might be a bit of a stupid and a useless superpower if I could turn into a kangaroo, but I love kangaroos. Find them very interesting, very intriguing. So I'd say helping people would come first, but having like the abilities of a kangaroo would be second. What did you want to be growing up? When I was a lot younger, I'd say 7 or 8, I had my eyes set on becoming a nurse. My grandmother has been a nurse for many years now, and that kind of goes back with helping people too. I thought becoming a nurse means I could take care of people, help them get better, stuff like that. But as I got older, I realized that I don't do well with vomit and I don't do well with blood. And I think in my 20s, like the fear of losing a patient to something unexpected that I've known for quite a long time would hit me very hard, make me very emotional. And I don't know if I have that, emotional ability to hold it in and keep it work professional. So that kind of went out of the gate there. I also thought that I would maybe become a teacher, but like I said before, my organizational skills are not really that good. And you need to be able to stay very organized. You need to be able to communicate with students, with other faculty, with parents too. I don't think I have strong communication skills yet either. And again, going back to kind of my introverted personality, I feel like I would be very reserved and wouldn't be able to give my all to my students to help them with what they deserve from me. So that kind of flew out the gate too in middle school. High school, I wanted to do something with criminal justice. I love watching true crime shows, reading crime books, listening to crime podcasts, etc. That's actually what I went to school for originally in community college. I got my I got my associate's degree in criminal justice. And I wanted to be a corrections officer, working kind of with juveniles who are in juvie, helping them so they could be let out earlier and getting them the help that they deserve and the help and care that they need. But being a corrections officer too requires a lot of, time, organization skills. You're having to talk with, psychologists and then juveniles and their parents, some of whom may have been past criminals and stuff. And it's not really a safe job either. And I kind of came to terms with that the summer between my first and second year of community. So I finished out community college and got my associate's degree in that. But after I realized that criminal justice probably maybe wasn't the right path for me either, we settled to journalism. I've loved writing, as I've already talked about. I think that I could do good things in the journalism world, and then adding the public relations minor too gives me just an extra asset to build off of with that. And I think the journalism, the PR stuff, writing and still having to communicate and work with people, albeit not as much people as what I would be doing if I were a teacher or a nurse. I found the perfect balance there. But I didn't always know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And if you don't know what you want to be when you grow up, or you don't know what you want to do outside of college just yet, that is totally okay. I went through about 4 or 5 different stuff of what I wanted to be before I settled firmly on one. And it can take time. And my advice about that is explore many areas of interest in school, but outside of school too. If you love art, for example, go visit art museums, learn a little bit about art history. Maybe something will catch your eye and you think, hey, that's something that I might want to do in the future. Or if you're a science person, spend time outdoors, go on nature walks, visit nature museums, visit aquariums, anything that could maybe potentially pique your interest in something that you want to continue doing and learning about. I know with my brothers, they always kind of knew what they wanted to do. One is studying, I believe, statistics in school. I think the other one is leaning more towards engineering. And those are two perfect areas for them. They're both very smart. They both are good at math. And I know statistics, engineering requires a lot of math too. And that's just perfect for them. And they always kind of knew what they wanted to do. So they had their plans set. And again, it's different for everyone. You can know what you want to do right away and stick to it, or you can bounce between 10 different stuff before you settle on one. It takes time, and just be patient because it will come to you. Favorite breakfast food? I'm not a big breakfast person at all. I'm trying to get better at actually eating breakfast every day, but I've never been much of a breakfast person. I would always kind of go to lunch and dinner. In school now, I work a lot in between lunch hours, so I've been having to go to breakfast now, so I'm not just eating one meal a day. But my favorite breakfast food would just be scrambled eggs. I love scrambled eggs. It gets me my protein. I'd say if yogurt's an option too, I love yogurt as well. And pancakes. So I'd say eggs, pancakes, yogurt for my favorite breakfast food. And foods. It's not just one thing, it's three. Question number 12. Coffee or tea? Both. Unfortunately, I can't choose between one. I will say though, I've been more of a tea drinker most of my life than I have been a coffee drinker. I like coffee, but I don't like it plain. I have to be able to add stuff to it to give it a certain flavor that I like. Some of my coffee K-cups actually right now in my room, I have caramel flavored, I have creamy hazelnut flavored and French vanilla. And the caramel K-cup coffee actually tastes a lot like hot chocolate when you add creamer and sugar to it too. And it's surprisingly really good. But with tea, I'll drink any kind of tea. I've been drinking a lot of tea ever since getting sick, so I've kind of gotten used to the taste of it at this point, but you can never go wrong with either one. Favorite TV show? My favorite TV show is The Big Bang Theory. Might be some of your other favorites too, but I just like the show. I think it showcases, kind of communication skills like the movie, like not the movie, like the TV show Friends does too. Both of those shows display communication between, the characters and people within the show too that are not necessarily main cast. I've picked up a lot of nonverbal communication skills through Friends, and I've picked up a lot of verbal communication skills through The Big Bang Theory that I apply still to just life in general. So you can learn a lot from a TV show, but The Big Bang Theory is filled with comedy, filled with laughs. I always get great joy watching it. What book/movie would you recommend and why? I'm a big fan of butts. You can call me a nerd all you want. I can live with that too. Um, I've been reading a lot of true crime books, and I don't want to really put out a recommendation that's based on true crime and true stories and that. I want to try to keep it as even keeled as possible without sounding like a complete, going off about criminals and whatnot. But I did read this very I did read this one book. It's called The Diversity of Inclusion and Addressing Racial and Stereotypes in Our Culture. I think it's called The Diversity Inclusion or something like that. But it's a great read. It kind of details what goes on for cultural stuff in universities and schools. It felt very powerful to me just reading it, and it gave me a lot to think about too, and just understanding that not everyone we has equal privileges and equal rights in the education system and society in general. So that's a book I recommend. I wonder if I have it with me actually. Hold on a second. Oh yeah, here we go. It's called The Diversity Delusion: How Race and Gender Pandering Corrupt the University and Undermine Our Culture. It's by Heather MacDonald. So this is a book I highly recommend checking out. It's not a very long book per se, just over 200 pages, but you can really learn a lot from it. I learned a lot from it. I really enjoyed it. I would reread it multiple times over and over again. It just never gets old. And again, I think it has some good life lessons in there, and you just you get a better understanding of the way society is in the world right now. So there's my book. For movies, I'm not a big movie buff, to be completely honest. I just can't find it in myself to sit down for an hour and a half or 2 hours and pay attention to something on the screen. I have a very short attention span, but if I had to really recommend a movie that I've seen and that I've liked, I think Coming to America is a very fun and comedic movie. You did a lot of good laughs there too. I remember watching it with my family for the first time, and it was pretty funny. And also with Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, those two are just comedic legends in their own way. Eddie Murphy is a fantastic actor as well. I'd say Coming to America is up there. The Silence of the Lambs, that's a movie with the fictional character Hannibal Lecter, I think Hannibal Lecter is actually based on a true person, but they wrote him as a fictional character. It's very dark and it's very creepy. It is more like a crime movie, but the storytelling is absolutely out of this world, and you just get chills. Silence of the Lambs, I think, is one of the better, well-written movies that I've watched. So there's a few movie recommendations out there. Do you have a favorite plant? I like flowers. Sunflowers, daisies, tulips, roses. I'm a big flower person. I also had a garden in high school and some of my years in college too. So I would plant, vegetables such as lettuce and spinach, zucchini. I'd have tomatoes, some strawberries that my brother had when he was younger that they're still growing and producing, which is completely fascinating for a strawberry plant. But I do love plants. I would say flowers and vegetables of all sorts. There's my favorite plant. Can't just pick one. Question 16. Do you have any hidden talents? If writing is a hidden talent, then yes. Other than that, I don't really think so. I can't really juggle. I want to learn how to juggle, but I can't juggle to save my life. I think it would be a fun hidden talent to have if you could juggle and make, a show out of it. Other than that, maybe drawing. I wouldn't say I'm a great drawer by any means, but something that I'm passionate about, something that I like to do. Same with painting. Anything art related, I'd say is maybe a hidden talent that I keep pretty hidden from most people. Question 17. What song/album could you listen to on repeat and why? Oh, if we have to narrow it to just one, I don't know if I can pick just one. Oh boy. I will say one album that I could listen to on repeat would be Kendrick's most recent record, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers from 2022. that is one of the most powerful and insightful albums that I have listened to and that I have witnessed from a hip hop artist. He he goes into depth with some topics in society that we, recognize and that we're aware of, but no one has really the guts to speak out about. When I listened to that for the first time, I just got, goosebumps and chills. And it made me do a lot of reflecting on how I was writing and how I was perceiving the world just from listening to that one album. Bruno Mars's album, Unorthodox Jukebox, is another album I could listen to on repeat. There's some absolute great songs in there. And just like Kendrick, his lyricism and his artistry is out of this world. But for songs, I'll give you my top 5 songs of all time. Because I don't that I could listen to on repeat, because I just can't pick one. In no particular order. Sweet Child O' Mine by Guns N' Roses. I know that's a classic. That's a song that I could listen to over and over again and not get bored of. It's a great melody. It just makes me feel good. Hey Ya by Outkast, again, has a great melody, has a great, tempo for a song. It makes you want to dance. It also has a lot of a darker and deeper meaning when you really pay attention to the lyrics. And when you realize what the song is about, you just go, oh, because I don't know. I know younger me was just vibing to that song and I had no idea what it meant until I really started focusing on lyrics and it'd be like, okay, that's a lot different than what I thought that song was about. Locked Out of Heaven by Bruno Mars. I said it was like my go-to karaoke song. That's just a song that I will never get bored of. Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond. I heard that song a lot at Iowa State football games and basketball games too. Again, I love, the melody and kind of the instrumentation of it. Just a really nice and sweet song. And then, Die Young by Kesha is a really great pop song from like the early 2010s. Again, it's just a banger. It's a bop. You just make you want to dance and get into it. I like happy songs. I also listen to ballads too. Don't get me wrong. There are some fantastic ballads out there. Again, showcasing great artistry and great lyricism. But those are just 5 songs for now. I can make a top 50 list of all of the songs that I could listen to on repeat, but we don't have time for that. Question 18. Can you play any instruments? I started piano lessons, I think in first grade, I believe, and continued up till high school. So I can still play a little bit of piano. I played clarinet and bass clarinet in band in school from 6th grade up to graduating as my senior year. I can play a couple, but not a lot. What is your major? My major is journalism and my minor is public relations. Question 20, your best study tip. My best study tip is for someone who struggles to focus on tasks for long periods of time. I like to, take about 20 or 30 minutes. If I'm studying for an exam, I like to take 20 or 30 minutes, look over the content and stuff, try to get as I kind of try to, look at it and memorize it to the best of my ability. And then after the 20 to 30 minutes is up, I like to put it all away and take a 5-minute break. So I can either get up and walk around, use the bathroom, grab a drink, grab a snack. You're just letting 5 minutes of you coming back down, kind of breathing in some calmness and aurora. You don't feel the stress of trying to perfect everything for long periods of time. You can give yourself little breaks to get re-energized, get refocused. And after the 5 minutes is up, go right back to studying and just repeat it until you feel confident in your work. I use that tip a lot for myself. I use that method. I find that it does help me when I can take breaks from stuff here and there. And I know I can the work is not going away. So if I step aside from it for just a few seconds, it's still going to be there when I get back. I don't have to worry about losing it. Are you a creative person? I just spent a lot of time talking to you guys about my favorite songs and albums and art. So to answer that question, yes. Describe the origin of the podcast. Last question. Been going on for 40 minutes now. This is a longer coffee talk, but I like talking to you guys. The origin of the podcast actually came from an assignment I had to do in my journalism class last semester. Was assigned to do I want to say it was an enterprise project, so I had a lot of say in what I wanted to do. I had a lot of free, just go out there and explore possibilities sort of thing. So my journalism piece from my immersive assignment was interviewing my brothers and making a golf story. Golf is very important to both of them. I watched golf on TV a lot. I still haven't had a golf lesson to this day, which I do want to go out and play around, or even go on the practice range or driving range and just hit balls for the first time. But I know I wanted to involve the family in some way, so I thought, why not interview my brothers and do a golf piece? I had to do a written portion. I had to do, a recorded portion also that could have been done in the form of interviews. I chose to do mine in the form of a podcast. So I would get them on screen, ask them a few questions, and then we would kind of talk about their responses to that and vice versa. I found that I really enjoyed interviewing them, writing up questions making up questions on the fly and having a decent conversation with them about a sport that very clearly means something to them and something to me too in a way. So I named that podcast segment stuff range talk for, obviously golf. But after that, it kind of got me thinking, maybe I could have a sports podcast and talk about different sports topics and sports areas, etc. So I went to my journalism professor, asked her what she thought about that, and if she would be willing to give me some guideline and some help to start this thing. She said yes, and here we are right now on Coffee Talks and talking about sports and just fun facts about me. And that is the end of these icebreaker questions, and most likely the end of this podcast segment. I hope you guys learned some more stuff about me, who I am as a person behind the screen. I hope that some of these questions were interesting, if you could call it that. And I have some great content lined up for this next week and the week after next week. So be sure you stay tuned for that. I know it's only March 7th, but it feels like it's mid-March already. And it will be mid-March when I come back from spring break. It'll be March 18th, which is crazy. Feels like we're already cruising by it. I can tease a little bit of some content coming up. As you know, I'll have some Big 12 tournament stuff and some NCAA previews, that sort of thing for next week. I'll be diving it more into some March Madness stuff, NCAA tournaments. I have to go record a main episode that I forgot to do yesterday, so I'm gonna go do that. But it's gonna be on the topic of golf, but with a little fun twist in that. I know after I come back from spring break, I'll also be talking a little bit about media bias. That was one of the topics of discussion that I've written down before, doing this whole layout of what I wanted the podcast to be about. So we'll talk about that. I'll give you kind of a crash course about something coming up. And then for April, we'll still have a little bit of the Final Four and the national championship. We'll have the Masters in April, and then we'll be in May. We'll have May in 2 months. Insane. Thanks for watching and for listening to the podcast, guys. I appreciate every single one of you who watches and listens. It means a lot to me. And I will catch you guys on the next episode and the next segments. See you then.